Hello and welcome. This is an episode about Bob. If you like it, if you don't, if you want to contact me, churchhouseclassics, it's all one word, @gmail.com. And if you fancy supporting the channel or just hitting the old tip jar, then there's a PayPal me link down here. All donations are correctly received and personally thanked. Anyway, enjoy the video. Later power steering pump's gone on. Later power steering pump bracket. I'm basically doing all this lot because I want to work out what belts we're going to need and where. I'm going to put the alternator on this side rather than above the power steering pump, just because it balances up the front of the engine, and also when someone takes an initial glance at it, apart from these rocker covers, because I've got the early style to go on there still, but when people take a casual glance at it, they say, oh yeah, it's a nice early engine. And that's the idea. We're not faking it into something it's not, but I don't want it to look like it's kind of got a serpentine belt on it, if you get my drift. So later power steering pump, I'm almost certainly going to use the early power steering box that's creeping around up there somewhere, because it's got absolutely no play in it whatsoever. It's going to go on. And I need to get pipes made up to go from the pump to the box back to the reservoir. That's been that lot really. It's all going quite well. And then on the inside, doesn't look like a huge amount of progress has been made, but I've been flapping around with the gear change. So I've got it all adjusted now. So we go over here, we've got first gear, we've got second gear, we've got balanced in the middle, third gear, fourth gear, and across and up into fifth gear. So it doesn't, all the gears are selected exactly as they should be. So it's the kind of, the middle gear is third, fourth, push it over to the left, first, second, push it over to the right, fifth, and then give it a mighty clout, reverse. That works, doesn't it? I'm happy enough with that. All I really need to do is to cut and shut this stick to get it to work. I bought a gasket thinking it was going to be the gasket to go underneath here. No, it's the gasket to go underneath there. Oh, that's 40p wasted. Never mind. Shit happens. I'm going to lube all this lot up. I've not kind of finished this assembly yet. I want it all lubed up. That's where the diff lock. That's where the high, low and diff lock lever would be if we were in a Defender. Got rid of that because I don't want it there. I want it here. So what I'm going to do is make a plate that goes down there that connects onto the lever here. A little bit of angled bracket that goes down there which supports that. That's a piece of piss. Handbrake I'm actually going to mount onto the body because it's cable connected anyway, and I really want it to kind of, you know, look authentic. So the handbrake's going to come through this hole as it would do traditionally on one of these early cars, and I think this is I'm quite pleased with the way this is actually coming together. The only challenge I've really got, I think, is what I do about this. Now I'm actually inclined to cut all of this lot out and make it so it's one big flat continuous piece of steel. It's going to be taller by about 1 inch than it would be, but I think it's going to look better than if it's got a step in the middle of it. I need to put the seat boxes on and work out what we're going to do about that. Obviously there are silly things like the silly things. There's a glove box, a cubby box that's going to go in the middle there. And I just want it to look right. That's the key thing there. So that's been that. And then on carbs, clang, those are the rear springs there. 2 of those will go on the car. Carbs, they've been through the ultrasonic cleaner. They come out quite nicely actually. I don't know what was going on with these carbs, but there's a lot of this kind of white powdery residue in there. I'm going to get in there, not with a Dremel, but with some wire brush or something. Clean it all out. It's actually all looking very serviceable. I'll just get a kit, rebuild them. You can see on this one, you can see where it's, I don't know, have moisture or something. All this crap, that's basically what it's got all over. That's have water in it or something. It's not a disaster, we can recover those. We can get them working again, and there's obviously an alternator. I'm not planning on using a knackered used old stock alternator unless I can guarantee the bloody thing works. But obviously with the pulley and also the mechanism, there's the mount for it. So this bastard goes on here like that, and I'm not convinced that it's right. Jury's out on this still. I'm sure that I had an extra hole on the one I did on Alan. I'll have a look. I'll work it out. It could be that that needs to be a stud, which goes through, and then the alternator clamps onto it. Because I do seem to recall that rather than a single long bolt, Alan had 2 nuts and bolts to mount onto this section here. And it lines up there. It'll go there, just needs to be 2 nuts and bolts, I think. And then that bracket there will need to go up to one of these bolts on here. Either that one or that one, I can't recall. I mean, it's a lot easier working on it when it's like this, it really is. There is one thing I forgot to do while the engine was out. I forgot to put the fucking core plugs in. So I could do 4 of them without any problems at all. I'm going to have to support the engine in order to do the 2 behind the engine mounts. I'll make sure I've got those bits available. And that, I'm just going to give that a quick clean over and it'll look all right, I reckon. Oh. And it is a proper, because I looked at the number, the ERC 2159, it is a Land Rover inlet manifold. Not that it makes a huge amount of difference, because I think they were pretty much all the same. But I need to get the right fixings for here. I need to get the right fixing for there, for the diff lock. Actually, no, we don't need the diff lock, do we? No, we don't, Richard. We don't. So I just put a plug into that. We have a vacuum gauge on the dash, then we can put that on. I can run that from there. The non-return valve for the servo is missing. I've probably got one of those around somewhere. Only one broken bolt there. Just dawned on me, I haven't done a huge amount of videoing today. Basic springs, dampers, bump stops on the back. Been going through, put the Bose self-leveling strut in on both sides. And now I'm wrestling with the fuel tank. Now, if you're going to put one of these in on your own, as far as I can see, and the boot floor's out, the only way really to do this is put a ratchet strap around it and a lump of wood. And then do it like that. You lift it up into place. And now I'm going to put a bottle jack on the chassis rail there and just jack it up into place. And that should be enough, I think, to get me to position the bolts. I've drilled holes through the rear cross member here. I had to cut a lip off there because I don't know if there's a difference between the rear lip on a 1989 car to a 1971 car, or the fuel tank is too big. But yeah, it's fucking tight. Anyway, we're there. It's going in now. I've done all the adjustments I need to do. I'm gonna get that in. So with that in place then, and this rear cross member is the only other thing I need to put into place. The back end of the car, the chassis wise, apart from the brakes, we're kind of there. I need to move forwards then on to the front end. This whole of today has been on the back end for now. A lamp shining in your face there, sorry about that. What an arse of a job. Really could have done without this, I tell you. Put the later, much later, catalytic converter prop shaft on there. I can't get my finger underneath it, and this is at a rest. And if I bounce the car, it's still clattering. Now, I did speak to Mr. Hammond, who sold me the gearbox and also the original prop, which is over there somewhere. And he did say, oh yeah, I seem to recall it was a box section cross member. Oh yeah, it might have had a notch cut out of it. Ah, right, okay, so we're back to plan A again. So this prop shaft needs balancing. I know that for a fact, because I put a tag on it because it was shaking my teeth out in my car when I was driving around with it, so I was going to get it balanced, but because it's still so close to that cross member needs to be notched, or I need to put the later style banana kind of loopy down cross member on, or buy one that's got a notch in it and restore that. We'll see. Bloody cross member's going to have to come off, which is a pain in the balls, to be honest. And then at the back here I took the handbrake drum off because the bolts for the prop shaft, they weren't in the best of order. I've seen better bolts. Oh, that was all right. I don't know what's been going on with them. Anyway, just a big circlip on the back of this thing. I'll replace the seal on that when it goes back together. Nice flange. Fuck's sake, Richard. Sorry about that, folks. I really am about 10 years old mentally. Sorry. Oh, other things. So today I've been out and about. I picked up a few odds and sods. So there's a new deck panel up here. Not a new one, but another used deck panel, which I'm going to put onto Bob. And then I picked up, because I wanted a tailgate glass. And the idea is, tailgate glass, I'm going to put a new aluminium frame on it. I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot worse than this one. Actually not bad at all, but it comes with the handle, the catches and everything. We'll see what we can get off it. The hinges are on the top there, but they look to have been sliced or snapped off. It's not a huge issue, but it's got the connectors there for the heated rear window. So I need to get that sorted out. It's not bad, that though. Not bad at all. Closing up over the road. See, transmission covers out. Not going to bother with that. What else? What else have we been up to? Oh, I started looking at exhaust manifolds. So, engines from a 3.5 EFI. These manifolds are, I think, they're from a V8 3.9. Of course, they're from a V8, Richard. What are you talking about? From a 3.9, because they're the same twin port systems I've got on my car. Any advantage of fitting those to this instead of the standard single port systems? I want to have a single output exhaust pipe at the back. It's going to be a stainless system right the way through. I'm pondering yet whether I go for the twin port at the front or the single port. Wisdom will be appreciated. And I've got a V8 tuning book, but it ain't here. And if I phone up some of the V8 specialists, they'll be talking to me about, you know, high compression, you know, 7,000 brake horsepower stuff, and I don't want any of that. Right, I think what I'm going to get on with now is the steering box. That is nice. No plate in that at all. Beautiful. Up close and dirty with Bob. Right, core plugs. Replaced a couple of them down this side, both on each side. All the core plugs I've taken out so far, while they look like they've got surface rust on the outside, and they have got surface rust on the outside, there's no corrosion whatsoever on the inside. Replaced unnecessarily, I believe. Anyway, we're in. Getting all the pulleys and things on the front here so I can work out what needs to go where. The alternator is going to go here. One sun just turned up. And the other thing I did is I replaced, or taken the sump off, really just to clean out the crap in the bottom of it. There wasn't any. But also to replace the gasket because there wasn't one. Lot of black bathroom sealant by the looks of things. And then the bottom of the engine, very clean. Very clean indeed. I'm not taking any bearing caps off. I've got no reason to. So I'm just going to put the sump back on with a new gasket. Do it up. Let's do this rear goal post thingy. So this is the problem I'm faced with. This goal post is kind of spectacularly ruined along most of its length here. Even up here, we've got issues. It's not great. At all, in the slightest, even a little bit, not great. So I've kind of started looking at donor pieces because this has been bugging me, to be quite honest. You know what it's like when you're, sorry about the chaps over the road, by the way, they're making a little bit of noise today. You know when it is when you kind of, you start doing something, you just keep putting it off and putting it off because, do you know what, you just can't face it. Well, this has been kind of that job. The bridge too far. On the inside, it's actually really good. All of this, really good on the inside. But on the inside of that, you can see it's rusty on the back. Not great. Right. Got in touch with Range Rover Classic Barn. I shall correct it underneath here. Nice chap, Ron, Netherlands. Does a lot of Range Rover parts on eBay. Anyway, I bought this off him. I know it's a later one, but do you know what? I'm actually going to clean this up, undo all the spot welds around up here, separate the upright from it, and I'm going to fit this onto the car. And when it's fitted onto the car, then I can work out what I'm going to do about the notch. Because then the notch, you see, will go in between the two holes, because I want a rear wiper on this thing, rear wash wipe, B-day. So wiper, washer, and a notch, which will line up with these two bits here to go along there. So I should dress this with the notch, but just in case you think I'm faking an A-suffix, no I'm not, because look, there's the notch. That's Bob's original notch, so to speak. Yeah, so I think that's going to be this afternoon's job. That arrived last week, and I just wanted to really get on with it now. So you can watch me drill some spot welds if you want to. But it is in pretty good shape, this thing, overall. Throughout its entire length, even on the inside edge. It's got the later channel there for holding the headlining up, but that's fine. We're having a later headlining in it anyway. It's got the mounting holes for the speakers at the back, which are going to go into it. And obviously it's just been hacked off where the original goalpost sections were. So I just need to unpick the bits I don't need, and then do the same on the car and splice this on. So I have to work out which bits I want to keep, which bits I don't want to keep. This panel here, I think, is the key kind of reinforcing joiner panel that sits in between kind of the rear crossmember piece and the uprights. Coffee. Very, very, very nice coffee. Oh yes. Right now, so I think really the key here is going to be, what's going on with my coffee cup? Why don't the lid go on? Let me start from the other side. Actually, let's start from this side. So we've got this piece I want to keep. Big lump of foam up there, just in case anyone wondered whether the folk at Land Rover were having a laugh building in all these mud and dirt traps. Let's go in the rubbish bag down there. This piece here I want to keep. This piece I don't. This piece I probably don't. So I think really it's going to be quite straightforward cutting these bits off. But even the lip on this one is good. All the channel for the rubber is good. Big lump of tape up here. Should have been what originally kind of sealed it against the roof. Right, let's start with a bit of action. I'm not going to video the whole bloody thing, because otherwise it ends up just hours and hours and hours of shit for me to edit through. But just give you a rough idea about how I start this process. Having got a donor piece, which is going to fit on the car, splicing the splice and the splice and the splice. Oh dear. Any spot welds? Yes, we can. Actually, for beauties. That's where red pen comes in really useful, because you can only see the spot welds at specific angles. So you really need to kind of just dot them when you see them. There's just two there. I'm surprised about that. There's a weld there. I'm surprised there's not more at the top. There's one, and there's one. 4 spot welds, and on the top, we've sprayed the workshop with little bits of mastic, kettle's covered in it. Nicely done, Richard. Right, I can see one big spot weld up here, because all I do, you see, is I plug weld this thing back together again. There's one. Ah, fuck it. That could have gone better. There we are. There's a weld there. I can't see any more spot welds on the top though. There's a weld here, obviously. That's easy enough to get through. I'll drill the spot welds first of all, then I can do the welds themselves. I'll dig that piece out. My coffee mug. Doofus. It has been busted. Right, there's a danger I'm going to need to drill spot welds out on there, but let's start with this piece first of all. Drill these out. Bit of lube, couple of drills. And time lapse. And it's off. So I ended up cutting these reinforcing, or drilling these reinforcing sections off because the bottom section's missing. When they chopped it off, they chopped this chunk off as well because this piece comes right down here like this. So I used those from the bits that are on the car, liberated the two corner pieces. There they are. They can go on the scrap pile down here. And what I'm left with is, in effect, this is the outside edge. We're looking from the roof down towards the tailgate. Is that. And the only bit I really had to kind of do, which I wasn't entirely happy about, but in order to cut this section off here, and there was a bead of weld along that edge there and up here, was just cut at 45 degrees, straight down, and then right the way through to the hole here. Now, the reinforced piece will go back over the top of that, but what I'll do is when I weld it all together, I shall weld that back, put that piece over the top, weld it in. So that's been done on both sides now, so I'm happy now. I've got everything I need of this top post. So what I need to do now is unbolt this from the car, and I should be able to get it all off, I think. I've only got a few bolts holding it in. I'm rather hoping I don't have to lift the roof up in order to get it off. I think with the screws out of the way down here, because it's only really kind of loosely assembled. The mount's undone. I should be able to pull it off, so to speak. There you go. So I'm going to get on with doing that. This wing needs to come off, unfortunately. So I need to take the wing off and I can get that done. So once this is out, then I can more or less do the same thing but in reverse. So I'll end up sacrificing what remains. The camera's not pointing at it, Richard, you dick. I'll end up sacrificing what remains of the top rail on both sides and then trimming it back so that I end up with effectively the complete chunk of the goalpost, which I'm going to use. Yes, sounds like a plan, doesn't it? Get it off first of all though. In answer to the question, yes, you can get the goalpost out without taking the roof off, but it ain't easy, because basically this lip here needs to lift, so kind of you more or less kind of lifting the back body quite a long way in order to, I've got all this weight in there, but I did get it out. There you go. So now the next plan really for the goalpost, you can see I've welded-ish the cross member on the bottom. It's not fully welded down there, but it's good enough. It's holding it in place. So these are the reinforcing plates. So I'm just going to drill all of the spot welds on the reinforcing plate. I need to save that piece and then chop straight down here. And then I'll be able to liberate from the actual goalpost upright the remains of the top crossbar. So even this top section looks quite good. It just rotted out violently underneath. And just in case you think I'm a heretic. Just get this thing upside down. Just in case you think I'm a heretic. That was a bit candy Richard, wasn't it? That's a bit nasty in there. I'll do my best to get it off in one chunk. But in all honesty, it's a step past it. Because this top edge and this edge was good, I was actually looking at just kind of, but you know, it's still rusting on the inside. And I'm thinking by the time I've done all of that, then I might as well put that in and cut a notch on it. Like that one. Right, I'm going to get on with that. Oh yeah, right, carbs are on the top, the engine's on the crane because I've taken the mounts off because the mounts were looking pretty shonky. Also, I've been cleaning up the engine block, so a little bit of steam cleaner action, a little bit of wire brush action. Cleaned the engine block up, there's a lot of kind of road crud and stuff all over it. It's not perfect, it's not like it's been deep cleansed, but it just gives it a better look. Now, the only thing I need to do still is I need to replace the last two core plugs on the side of the block here. I've done the rear two most core plugs, as you can see there. In fact, that one might be hanging out a little bit there. I'll just double check that in a moment. No, I think it's the seal. And I'm going to show you how I bang these core plugs out. Because if you've never done one before, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, core plugs. I mean, core plugs, freeze plugs, whatever you want to call them, they're core plugs to me. You folk, you fine folk, might be referring to them as freeze plugs. They're actually, I believe that they're casting plugs, so they were used as part of the casting process for the block. We'll do the one on this side, I think, because it's got a bit more light, isn't it? So, core plugs. There's a new one for you. So I get my core plugs from this company here, ECP, Engine Core Plugs, Automotive Core Plug Specialist. The Land Rover part number for these ones down the side and also the two on the back is 602152. I don't really need to say any more, but these ones from this batch here are the ones that I fitted onto my car, L95, and all it really did was shit them out, which is why I wrote shit on there. So the car would get up to normal operating temperature and these things would leak. And then eventually they would just pop out. Great. So there's a warning for you. Don't buy these ones from this batch because they're shit. Fucking things. Right, okay, so these ones, like I said, come from Engine Core Plugs and they are a slightly tapered fit. I've done this on a video before, but basically the diameter on the outer edge of the thing is slightly wider than it is on the inner edge. And you can see also there's like a ridge on here. When I bang them in, I also put a little bit of lube on there, which I've got around somewhere. Where's the lube gone? Right, this is the lube I use. High temperature silicon sealant. The same guys, so Engine Core Plugs, they sell this stuff. Very, very good. If you've got any imperfections on the edge of the alloy casing, then it seals them, which is really good because you don't really want these things weeping, not like the bag of blue bloody misery and joy did. Now, I did actually get in touch with them directly. I said, look, I don't know if you guys have got a batch problem, blah 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 blah, but I've had 3 of these fucking things shit themselves out of the car, and ultimately they only started to leak when the engine started to warm up, and then they started to walk out of the block under pressure. Now, I've done a pressure check on my engine and it wasn't running over pressure. First thing Britpart did was refer me back to a supplier which I no longer use, and because their customer service is absolutely appalling. And the second thing that came back from the customer service department, who is utterly fucking appalling, was that they'd never had a problem like this before, ever. And yet, they were able to confirm my bloody measurements. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I need to back it. So all I really do, there's a socket in there, put it in on one edge, and then kind of using the momentum of the Land Rover adjuster number 1. Now these things will pop out until they almost home, because the outer edge is slightly smaller. Now the other two were a lot easier than this because they weren't kind of hanging out of the side of the block. What am I talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? To swing at it. I'll tell you what might work. It has actually gone in at the top edge, but not the bottom edge. Let's get a slightly smaller hammer. Now I think. Now, because you've got an alloy block, you really don't want to be swinging the hammer too hard, but it does want to be in. Because if it ain't in, it's going to come out. And that will not please you. Right, it wants to go a tiny bit further. Might have to use the other hammer for this one. I don't think it's going to go any further. It's in. So that's how I put core plugs in. And that one's affectionately known as the bastard, because it's the one you have to take the engine mount off to get to. Now, is this one actually out? No, it's the rubber. It's the bit of rubber. So the Durco actually sets. This one still looks like going a bit further here. Might need a big persuader. That's it. Fuck it, it's happened. Right, let's go and do the other one now.